Oh, I do, actually, Everybody ready?
I think Sean wants to sign up for.
He already has.
He already did.
He's already. Ready?
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the May meeting of the town of Black Mountain to order. If you'll please stand, let's pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You remain standing for a moment of silence. Remember those 4 souls that we lost in Texas. Thank you. You may be seated. Just one thing I want to bring up here, I guess to those of you that were downtown, you probably saw at Ingalls that we had a safety day from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I want to congratulate both our chiefs here for a job well done. It was excellent. Thank you. Ethics statement. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the council, all council members have a duty to conduct the affairs of the governing body in an open and public manner, free of conflicts of interest. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, readily identifiable financial impact for any member, his or her family, or close business associates?
There is for me whenever we discuss the town property off of East Street.
Okay. Does any council member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the council date? Not hearing any. There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote. We'll now have citizen comments. First up, Lynn Swan. Yes, please, right here. Remember, we have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. I'm here to address the Recreation and Parks budget. The recent notice on Facebook by Nathan West caught my attention because the items scheduled for attention in the Rec and Park budget plan being presented do not address much-needed maintenance and improvement issues that need current attention at Lake Tomahawk. The drain pipe that was used to connect drainage for the new ecosystem water retention pond is stopped up. Not the town nor the crew installing the retention pond took the time or effort to unstop that pipe. While I'm on the subject of rainwater runoff, the rain drains down from the upper level of the parking lot at the pool house and crosses that drain that I just mentioned, but it goes straight down the middle of the paved access and then it runs into the lake there, or it comes out onto the walking path and pools there on the walking trail. Another issue regarding money allocation for recs and parks, as it also relates to stormwater issues. The concrete landing at the bottom of the pool stairs in front of the pool house needs a drain. When it rains, the water stands at the bottom of those steps at about 2 inches deep, and that makes it inaccessible for people to get to the handicapped ramp or climb the stairs. Just a couple of other matters of attention. One of the pillars in front of the clubhouse, those beautiful brick pillars, has some brick pieces missing. And the clubhouse needs to be painted and maintained. And it would really benefit it as a profit center for the clubhouse to have new windows with blinds built in that can be safely opened and closed upstairs in the clubhouse. That would make it more comfortable and attractive venue for the renters as well as for the folks who attend there daily, especially the senior citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ruth Pittard.
I'm here to comment on solar power, on the use of current money for solar power. From my
Give us
own
your name and
Ruth
address.
Pittard, 208 Central Avenue.
Good, thank you.
In 2015, I built a 600 square foot house on Central Avenue on a tiny lot with a stormwater easement. And I chose to complete that dedication to environmental action by using the 5 solar incentives that were available to me before the year 2016. I'd been dedicated to solar power and sustainable building since my grade school years, and that's a while. So I stretched financially to incorporate solar in my plan because of the incentives and the timing. Thanks to that stretch and choice, I pay no electric bill in an all-electric house, except the Duke Power Grid use fee, which was $8 then, has doubled in the 8 years since, and will double yet again in 2025, with net metering added as a result of the current Utilities Commission ruling. So my electricity is not free, even though I don't pay for it. Still, using the existing money that was available to me was a very smart choice because it has done nothing but go up since I put it in. Electricity will be more and more expensive. The time to incorporate solar is now, and the choice is the right choice whose time it has come. Also, with more and more citizen and governmental support and use of solar power, the voices for electric, non-polluting power linked to social power become more effective also. The town has a chance to lead by example and to do the smart thing, even though it's expensive, at the right time.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for what you do on Wednesday afternoons at Town Square. Karen Austin.
Good evening. My name's Karen Austin. I'm a longtime member
And you
of,
live in
excuse me?
your dress.
Oh, I actually live in Nebo, but I've been a member of Black Mountain Presbyterian Church since 1962.
Very good.
Grew up in Black Mountain and lived there until about 5 years ago. Still active in the church, and as such, I am the leader of the church's Earth Care team. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of that team as well as just from my own heart. This spring, our team held a study of this book right here. It addresses having difficult conversations about a very difficult issue, and that is climate change. There were over 60 people who attended weekly meetings over the course of 5 weeks. Each, once a week for 5 weeks, we had 60 people who showed up to read this book and discuss the idea of having those conversations about climate change. We'd like to share this resource with you because we think you might benefit from that. And we have copies for each of you that we'll give to you later on. Tonight, I would like to urge you to consider fast-tracking solar installations because it's the right thing to do, and it's the smart thing to do if you're spending other people's money. We recently read in the Black Mountain News about budgeting plans that include renovations to several parks and rec properties. Those renovations are necessary and they will benefit a lot of Black Mountain residents. But moving to solar power is a pressing issue. It will benefit every citizen in Black Mountain regardless of their age or their gender or their social class. We feel this must be a priority. To the group that's behind me, if you're here to support Black Mountain's move to solar power, please stand up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Gene Franklin.
Good evening. I'm Jean Franklin. I live at 108 Connolly Street in walking distance of here. And I want to refer to 2 newspaper articles, and I'm here to support more solar panels going up quickly. First, an article in the Asheville Citizen-Times on March 3rd said, humans around the world emitted more CO2 in 2022 than in any other year on record, a result of air travel rebounding from the pandemic and more countries turning to low-cost coal. However, embedded in that article, there's good news. Increased deployment of renewable energy, electric vehicles, and heat pumps helped prevent an additional 550 megatons of CO2 emissions. Without clean energy, the growth in CO2 emissions would have been nearly 3 times as high. Now, that is actually encouraging. We humans are helping. We are finally getting up enough solar panels and heat pumps and EVs that we're making an impact, but we need to do more faster. We need to see a headline next year that says humans emitted less CO2. Another article in the Black Mountain News that I think Karen just referenced said our town has $1,119,200 remaining from American Rescue Plan Act funds. It says that the town council met on April 19th and gave as I understand it, a consensus of what 11 items to budget for. Good things like parking, restrooms, replacing the gazebo, creating a sidewalk, and so on, all necessary things. Then it said council will look at installing solar panels at a later date. Panels on one town-owned building will cost $200,000. That's still the article that I'm referring to. And we would like to suggest that the building that uses the most electricity would get the panels. Then at the end of the article, it said these decisions are not final. Citizens will have an opportunity to weigh in on any of this as we go through the budget process. So here's what I would like to, well, first of all, with great appreciation for you and the job you do and the things you've already done, I believe the town is responsible for the panels on the Carver Center and the EV chargers around town and things I don't even know. But my request is please move solar panels to a top urgent position on the list. The faster we attack this climate problem, the better. Please make sure that the public knows when these panels will be discussed through the Black Mountain News and Valley Echo or whatever things on Facebook or whatever, because I'm one of these people that wakes up and finds out I missed the meeting and didn't know.
Have to
My
interrupt
time.
you there at 3 minutes there, please.
Okay, I'm actually finished.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you for your time and service.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Swan.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening, and my subject is parking at the Lakeview Center. I have collated a package before you, and it says the copies attached, the one with the parking shows Cragmont Park allocated 45,000 for additional parking. That's below the dam there. The center, which is for the seniors, has limited parking space. And with the summer visitors coming in to our beautiful lake, and that is a great thing. However, Memorial Day weekend is coming up, and the pool will be opening to the public. At that time, parking for seniors are very, very limited. The lot at the pavilion and the tennis courts are usually full, and the distance is not at all favorable for seniors. Our seniors, some have physical disabilities. They use canes, walkers, and sometimes wheelchairs, will not have a convenient parking space. So I am recommending that the parking there at the pool side be allocated for seniors only, and the lot down next to the tennis court and the pavilion be allocated for the pool parking. So, or build us a new parking lot. So, thank you very much. And the attached shows the activities that goes on at the center. We're open from 9 till late in the afternoon, so the senior center is very active. And you're all welcome to come and join us for lunch someday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sean Sloan.
Sean Sloan, 115 3rd Street, Black Mountain. Here representing the community garden. To thank you for your considered support for building a new structure and having a proposal to fund some of it. Perfectly understandable that that was not going to take care of any business with finality. I need to start my timer. Shoot, never mind. Anyway, I wanted to clear up a misconception, which is that I think the town council thinks that the supporters of a new structure at the community garden expect the town to pay for the structure, and that is just not the case. We first and foremost need permission to explore the possibility of building a structure, and we can't do that without an affirmative something from the town council to say, yes, we approve of the concept. You may spend money or raise money to propose a structure that we can consider and how you're going to fund it. But without some affirmation from the council, we can't do anything. And so I just wanted to make that point. And the other thing is, in terms of if you are in support of the structure, then how is it going to get built, right? I mean, there is the ARPA funds, but before anything happens, you'll have to have a master plan done, because that is where we can go to funders, to corporate sponsors and people that we can name, facilities after, to fund privately the structure. And so before anything really materially can happen, that site plan has to be done, the master site plan for the building. And the quote from the McGill and Company was $50,000, and that's a lot of money, and I'm told it can be done for a lot less. But wouldn't it be lovely to have an idea of a new structure in town that would give something new to come out of the ARPA fund, something that people can look forward to? And so I'm asking for you to consider funding for the master site plan in which case then we can start seeking funding for it from corporations, from grants and so on. I think it's a sensible proposal. And barring that, I'd welcome any other path that you see to getting the thing out of the ground. We're not asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're simply asking for a clear path forward and hopefully to use some of the ARPA funds to get it started. Thank you.
John. Next, Robin Stiles.
I'm Robin Stiles. I live at 206 Central Avenue in Black Mountain, and I'm also a member of the Earth Care team at Black Mountain Presbyterian Church. I encourage you to put the solar panels up sooner rather than later. And I want to tell you about our experience with panels. In 2016, we put solar panels on the roof of our newly built house, primarily because we care deeply about the earth. Instead of using coal and fracked gas, we wanted to use the free and harmless energy of the sun to generate our household power. Since installing the panels, we have paid only the $16 fee, it probably was $8, as Ruth said, when we started, to be connected to the grid. Our electric usage bill since December of 16 has been zero. We have saved the approximately $100 a month, which is the average for a house our size. And that figure comes from a survey of our neighbors whose houses are about the same size as ours, which a representative at Duke agrees is the best way to calculate the monthly consumption. She couldn't do it unless she had an address. So she said that was a good way. That means that within 10 years, we will have paid off the cost of our panels and paid nothing in electricity charges. I urge you to put the solar panel purchase among your top priority items for the same reasons that we did. You care about the earth, you'll be using clean energy, and you'll save the town's money in the long run. Plus, it's a giant step toward becoming the greenest little town in North Carolina. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you for the books.
You're welcome.
Barbara Gall.
My name is Barbara Gaw, and I live at 100 Fairway Drive here in Black Mountain. And I have just joined the Black Mountain Presbyterian Church Earth Care team. The Climate Book is a book written by Greta Thunberg, a world-renowned activist from Switzerland. At age 20, she has addressed climate rallies across the globe. She states in her book, and I quote, "Despite dire warnings in the 1980s and in the 1990s, we have emitted more CO2, carbon dioxide, since 1991 than in the rest of human history." I repeat, despite dire warnings in the 1980s and 1990s, we have emitted more CO2, carbon dioxide, since 1991 than in the rest of human history. If we do our part, we can help prevent a severe catastrophe from happening in the year 2030. Please put solar panels on another town building. We thank you for your service and your concern in this urgent matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Rick Early.
I'm Rick Early. I live at 107 Oakland Drive in Black Mountain. $5.4 million. Congratulations. Council and staff, anybody know what I'm talking about? Stormwater grant. A stormwater grant for $5.4 million. Hats off. Thank you very much. Great job. You know there's a but coming. I can feel it. Last year's budget for utility fees is $355,000. That's 15 years. 5.4 million is 15 years of stormwater utility fee collections. The budget the last 2 years is 800 and some thousand, and there's about 500,000 that's not spent. So you kind of got 5.4 plus $500,000, almost got $600,000 in the bank. I would ask the council to seriously consider helping out the property owners in Black Mountain, give them some financial relief, and suspend the collection of the stormwater utility fee, at least until 4 or 5 million of that has been spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Jim Snyder.
I'm gonna pass.
Okay. Last, Ruth Shiverg. Shiverg.
Ruth Shivers. I live at 140 North Fork Road in Black Mountain. Good evening, and thank you for giving me time to express my concerns about a new multi-housing development on the border of our property at 140 North Fork Road. Because growth doesn't pay for itself, to what degree are we willing to sacrifice for it? My husband and I have several concerns regarding this rezoned multi-housing development. Our concerns include runoff onto our property, increased traffic on North Fork Road, disturbing the ecosystem of the nearby woods, and the continual building of expensive housing that is unaffordable to many of those from our community. On our property, we have invested thousands of dollars for water mitigation. Upsetting the natural lay of the land from new construction may cause more runoff problems for us and more expense. Traffic on North Fork Road has increased significantly over the past few years, and this two-lane road is not set up for the increased traffic and speed that drivers use on the final stretch near Montreat Road. While land ownership is a privilege and capitalistic venture, it also comes with responsibility. Some known factors of being responsible landowners in our area include preserving nature, maintaining the integrity of the community. I'd like to add a third idea: providing housing that is affordable to families in order not to create a divided class system. Many families cannot afford to live in Black Mountain, and with the prices of houses in our town, this development will be yet another example of expensive housing for select buyers. While some may define a prosperous town to be additional citizens and businesses that bring in more revenue and property taxes to benefit the town, more is not always better. The working class residents of Black Mountain are the ones who feel the impact of this ongoing development. Many working class individuals are directly affected by not being able to afford housing to live in this town, yet they are contributing to the success of Black Mountain. The new surge in housing development over the past few years has meant significantly more traffic, congested local restaurants with limited serving staff, and also a decline in our local school enrollment. I say this because I'm currently a teacher at Black Mountain Elementary, have been a teacher in Owen District for 17 of my 22 years, and I've witnessed a decline in enrollment and teaching positions, and I have some data that I'll be glad to share with you. Black Mountain Elementary, we currently have 147 students. In 2018, we had 224. Our schools are suffering, and it's the effect of the high cost of living, the increased housing prices. I just do not feel that this development at Chinkapin is where it's located. The rezoning of it into another housing development, it's not necessary. We're not growing our town. We're not supporting our
Thank you,
schools.
appreciate it.
Okay.
All right, that concludes the first citizen comment. Of course, there's another section of citizen comment later on in the meeting. So, Josh, you'll lead us, please.
Sure. So, Mr. Mayor, we have communications from staff, council, commissions, and agencies, and first up would be our beautification committee annual report. Tucky Folker.
Thank you for the opportunity to share with you tonight. I'm Tucky Folkers, the co-chair of the Beautification Committee, and I'm here to tell you a bit about some of last year's accomplishments and our hopes and goals for next year. 23 years ago, Willie Headley led an initiative that became the Beautification Committee. Our mission is to honor the natural beauty around us by maintaining our 53 containers, town square, 27 garden sites, and by sponsoring community events. We have an executive board of 4, committees, subcommittees, people who assume responsibility for all the garden sites and containers, and a swarm of worker bees. In 2016, the committee adopted a goal to provide a consistent look for honoring nature in the historic downtown by installing wooden containers with handcrafted metal details. Now several of those 7-year-old containers need repair. Winter delayed completion of the project, but the 53 will soon be refurbished and replanted. Bob Headley generously donated partial funds for adding stone steps to Town Square, and Public Works installed them. Maintenance and planting continue in the square with monthly weeding and seasonal pruning workdays. An arborist has volunteered his services for the majority of tree trimming that needs to be done, but for the larger job of trimming the 3 big oak trees, we'll be paying for the service. He will also root prune a bald cypress that threatens to break up the cement sidewalk. Under the capable and untiring leadership of Pat and Carl Rickenbach, this has been a big year for revamping, maintaining, and enhancing the 27 garden sites. This year, we completed one of our largest sites. The Welcome site by Ole Guacamoles is 60 feet long. Harwood Funeral Home donated a granite bench to the site, and we're currently working with the town to incorporate a sidewalk, which will bifurcate the site. We've also worked to solve some site problems. This year, we removed junipers and invasive weeds and installed new plantings and landscape timbers in the Love parking lot. Hawatchin Walk, which was formerly a one-way gravel road down from Cherry Street, also had site problems. The garden next to the veranda is now nicely planted to complement the narrow area. The garden site next to Europa is temporarily bare in order to handle future building maintenance. This beautiful new stone path below the Museum and Arts Center was installed by Public Works, who then installed stones on the lower slope of the hill to help control erosion and to create a native plant area. Now this garden, you may recall, because it had leaning, rotting timbers that were oozing down onto the sidewalk. Well, now it's been totally redone. Pat and Carl removed trellises and plants and stored them for reuse. Then Public Works replaced the timbers with pressure-treated wood. After Henson's completes its wall repairs and its painting, the trellises and plants will be reinstalled. Public Works next installed a raised bed garden, which you see on the slide to the left, to give an open view to the store and to complement the wall garden. The Chamber Garden is a very large site which we divided into 6 separate sites because of its immensity. It was overgrown and it obscured the informational signage that was there. The Chamber Sidewalk Garden was re-landscaped with help from Public Works. The view of the Visitors Center from the front sidewalk has opened up, and we think it's beautiful. Thorny rose bushes used to be a thorn for people who like to sit on that wall at Take a Hike. They were removed and plantings suitable for the site were planted, making the view of the garden pleasing from both the street and the parking lot. A major renovation of Town Hall Gardens was one of our goals for 2022 and was completed in September. Gail Bromer led the effort with support from Public Works. Members dug in 32 shrubs and trees, along with countless perennials. As you've been hearing, Public Works is great support for all of our projects, and we truly appreciate them. In fall, we decorate with hay bales, corn stalks, thank you, Mayor, pumpkins, a large spider, scarecrows. This year, we added an illuminated ghost. The primary school kids and teachers made 17 flying ghosts. Kid Quests, an after-school program at the United Methodist Church, made 4 fun crows, a less scary term for scarecrows. The day before Holly Jolly, we decked the 4 welcome signs in Town Square with greenery and bows to bring the spirit of the holidays into the community. Our biggest fundraiser of the year is the Black Mountain Garden Sale held in the lower parking lot of Town Square, this year on May 19 and 20. Roy Ann Jones chairs this event and says this year it'll be bigger and better than ever. We've enlarged the space to accommodate 24 vendors, bringing flowers, specialty plants, and decor. We'll have a members market highlighting talented members who donate their items, and wonderful baked goods for a bake sale. We had a successful fundraising but also friend-raising event at Sourwood Festival, recruiting new members and showcasing our good works for the benefits of the town. Lori Pisano obtained a truckload of wreaths and gardens for sale to local customers and for decorating the town. And the tailgate market, there we go. Whoa! What happened to the tailgate market? Well, anyway, the tailgate market offered us space last fall to sell plants from our gardens. Plants were donated by Painter's Greenhouse also, and specialty azaleas from local grower Andy Whipple. We sold them all at bargain prices. That was the slide showing a bargain price for a wonderful plant. With these fundraising opportunities, the garden sale, the greenery sale, the pop-up sale, and Sourwood, we provide support for 2 community award programs. The Community Improvement Award is a new program launched last year and developed by Rhonda Reedy. The award identifies business and residential properties that are well-maintained, pretty, and have recently made landscaping improvements. We've given $50 awards to 4 businesses and 2 residents. The Seed Money Award helps local businesses, churches, and neighborhoods kick off their own beautification projects. This year's winners are Black Mountain Neuro Treatment Center, Black Mountain Primary School, the Open Oven Cafe, and the Swannanoa Valley Christian Ministry Hope for Tomorrow programs. I had to write that down. Deck the Trees is another example of our involvement in the community. Thanks to all who voted for trees this year, as that raises funds for the SVCM Heating Fund. The April Spring Litter Sweep was well attended. 70 people, 10 organizations collected 30 bags of trash. We'll do the sweep again in the fall. At the sweep, we also had an educational Earth Day recycling awareness table. Each year, we establish goals to either complement existing programs or strengthen the committee in general. The goals from 2023 are the following: to work with Public Works to maintain the trees on Cherry and Broadway, to instill plant tags to identify species in Town Square, and to work with merchants to clean up debris in order to have a cleaner, prettier town. These projects, of course, cannot be done without your financial support and your partnership. We applied to the town through the funding application for the fiscal year 2024 for $14,000. The requested funds will be used for the things listed: the garden sites, the town square, the plant containers, and special projects, goals, and garden renovations, such as the renovation at Town Hall. The Beautification Committee supports and advances the town's comprehensive plan in many ways. For example, 6 of our projects' goals or hopes address the town's livable and walkable goals: maintaining gateways and historical sites, consistent plant containers, community awards, the use of art in the garden sites, such as the murals on the Cherry Street restroom, such as the well next to the well house that Joyce Blackworts beautifully drew. 4 of them support the green and resilient goals. We're trying to repair and maintain the rain garden behind the museum, trying to promote the use of native plants, eliminate invasive plant species in our garden sites, and educate about the use of recyclable products during litter sweeps. We're all feeling that we're a part of Black Mountain, and we enjoy working with you, the town departments, and the community, with the goal of making our town one of the best small towns in America. Thank you for your support over the years. We look forward to working with you for many years to come.
You do a wonderful job.
I brought a posse.
Thank you very much.
Next, you've got Josh Henderson with the Parks and Recreation Annual Report.
All right, good evening. So our 2022 annual report, give you some data here. Just kind of go over our mission a little bit, and hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll be able to see how we're meeting that. But what we do is to provide community-based recreation programs, wellness facilities, and services to the citizens of Black Mountain. So I want to talk a little bit about our reach. Oftentimes people will ask, well, how are you getting your word out? Or we haven't seen things posted, or, how are you getting information distributed? So I want to kind of go over that a little bit. Obviously we have a pretty heavy internet and social media presence. You can see some of the data there from Facebook, Instagram, and then also our website. I know we rolled out a new town website a few years ago, and we've got a group together now that's working on making some edits to that. But you can see there the people who are visiting the pages on our website and the subscribers to the website. And then down at the bottom, it just kind of talks about some of the local news outlets that we utilize to promote a lot of the programs and things that we're doing. Moving to events, these are the events that we did in 2022, and just kind of give you an idea of who showed up to those as far as numbers are concerned. The one thing that kind of stands out, 2022 was the second year that we did our pumpkin post, which is a collaboration between the community garden and our department, which was traditionally a Halloween event, and we felt like we just wanted to get away from handing out candy to kids because everybody else was doing that. And we had a low turnout this year because it poured down rain, but you can see the numbers there from some of the other events that we had. Our youth sports program, the biggest thing here is our outdoor soccer season. This was a program that we developed in 2021 as a result of COVID, which became heavily popular, to which we developed 2 seasons. So you can see the numbers there with the participants for those programs. Indoor soccer and youth swim league being 2 of the largest, along with outdoor soccer. Our outdoor programs is a really successful program that we have. This was also a COVID project that we started in 2021. So this was our 2022 was our second season of doing outdoor programs. All of these programs are capped at 15 people because most of them are hikes and small group activities. And you can see the numbers there. They continue to grow. We're doing a lot of new things. Some of the new things that we're starting is some trail building. We're going to be doing some foraging hikes. We've partnered with some organizations to teach about native plants, mushrooms, things of that nature. So that'll be coming up this year. And then moving on to the pool. These are the pool numbers from last year. Again, pool is always very popular. 2022, in 2021, we had large numbers at the pool because the Buncombe County Pool in Owen was closed. So this year it did drop off a little bit because with that pool being open, some people chose to go there instead of Black Mountain. Summer camps, we do 2 summer camps. We have our Black Mountain Summer Camp, which we held last year. Just to kind of give you an idea there, a lot of what they do is off-site. We do a lot of things on-site, but they are out and about and they are getting after it in the community. Field trips, arts and crafts, they do some community service. They go to a lot of other parks in a lot of the neighboring communities. We also hold a tennis camp, which is hosted by the Black Mountain Tennis Association. That takes place at the high school, and you can see the numbers from that. Our active aging adults, 2022 was probably the biggest year for them. Coming out of COVID in 2021, we really kind of got back to our regularly scheduled programming there. Some of the things that we introduced, we're bringing back a lot of the group exercise classes, which I think are wildly popular, along with an art class and chair volleyball. If you haven't played chair volleyball, you should pop in over there and check it out. It's pretty fun. They do a lot there, and they're very involved. You heard from some of those people tonight. And then our community garden. 2022, we hired a new community garden manager. This was also the year, I believe, that we first really started tracking compost. You can see that we did a lot of composting in 2022. There is a slight drop off in the amount of food that we produced in 2022, but I attribute that to the turnover and our former garden manager leaving and a new garden manager coming in. But you can see we are pretty much maxed out for space at the community garden. We have a waiting list. I think there's maybe 20 people trying to get on a waiting list there for plots. So it is a very popular thing, and we are in need of space. We also have a pollinator garden coordinator in our department that manages several pollinator gardens throughout town. Those total 1 acre of property, and you can see the 4 locations there and some of what she's doing. Our facility rentals remain steady. You can see that the numbers and the revenues from those. Obviously, the Lakeview Center is the most utilized facility that we have. And I can tell you, just looking at the calendar right now, once the warm season hits, our pavilions are pretty much booked out for the summer at this point. So if we're looking at projects to do in the future, putting more picnic shelters and pavilions around town would definitely be of a benefit for that. Some of the things that we accomplished in 2022 that aren't listed in the previous slides. One of the big things that we did kind of coming back from COVID, especially with outdoor programming, was partnering with organizations in our community. Obviously, the town doesn't have a ton of trails and trail systems and hiking and additional things like disc golf. And so we partner with a lot of the camps and conference centers around to utilize the things that they had that we did not have. We play a lot of disc golf at Blue Ridge Assembly, Ridgecrest, the Black Mountain Children's Home, Owen High School. Those are the sites for our Youth Disc Golf League. We've also been doing indoor climbing, archery at some of the conference centers. And then we also partner with a new organization called G5 Trail Collective, which is, I believe, based out of Old Fort. They train some of our staff on building trails, and now our staff is able to go out and teach community members how to build trails. Partner with Warren Wilson. They reached out to us to do a cleanup. We also partner with them with the Lakeview Center and their preschool reading program. We donate a lot of our garden vegetables with Bounty and Soul. Some of the things that you guys funded last year that we were able to do was we replaced the pool cover. We updated the pool house lighting and electrical that had been there, I think, since the inception of that pool house. We also added a new fence and a shade structure at the dog park. And we completed the restrooms with the Partif grant at Veterans Park and began our master plan. And that's all I got if you guys have any questions.
One thing I would just suggest is that, on the pavilions,
Mhm.
over the years, I've noticed, you get people that rent the pavilion for lunch activities, or
Mhm.
rent the pavilion for suppers. But very seldom you have the same group there.
Mhm.
And to try to go ahead and make that a dual purpose so that you could rent it. I know you're gonna have to get somebody over there to clean it
Mhm.
in between, but instead of thinking about having to build new structures, this is a way to go ahead and take advantage of existing structures and help increase the revenue stream.
Yeah. We currently do 2 time frames, so we do a 9 to 3 and 3:30 to 9:30.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you did that.
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. And it's exciting to see so much activity around town. Are we still on track to bring back basketball?
Yes.
And when will that begin?
It'll be this spring, or this winter, spring. So usually starts in February.
Great. And then just, you may not have an answer for a broader question like this, but after getting the master plan and approving the master plan, has that reshaped how you're, approaching some of the activities and some of the priorities of the department at all?
I would say that it sheds light on what's needed in the community in terms of what people are interested in and what we can offer. And so we'll definitely take the recommendations from that plan and work that into our programming and events.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
And then lastly, for communications from staff would be our Public Services Director, Jamie Matthews, with the annual water report.
Evening, Mayor and Board. Capitalizing what Josh said, this is our 2022 calendar year annual water report. So to get started, I listed a couple of projects and maintenance that we done. I'll try to explain, why we chose these to do in last year's budget. We installed a new 6-inch ductile iron pipe water line on the old toll road. This was to replace an old AC line that's probably, just guessing, between 70 to 100 years old that they don't even use in production anymore. So one of our goals is to try to replace these lines as we move forward and try to update our system. We replaced 400 foot of that this past year. We got another 800 foot that if our budget passes, we'll do this year. And then there's 2,000 foot in total. So it'll probably be a 3-year process to get that done. One misprint I'd like to mention, it says installed 4 ultrasonic flow meters. We actually installed 5. 2 of those was at Timber Park. We got 1 on Toll Road, Watershed, 2 in Timber Park, 1 to Asheville Booster. What that ultrasonic flow meter does is looking forward into the future and trying to get water loss down is when you put these meters on these pump stations as they pump water out into the system. It takes a little math, but you let this run for several months and then you come back and compare it to the billing here at Town Hall and it'll show you which areas in town have the most water loss. So we just got them installed last year. We've not done the numbers yet, but I'm curious to see because it'll give us an idea even further of things we need to replace moving forward and what areas we need to focus on.
Third loss now.
It varies depending, but it's actually come down a whole bunch. I think the last one, correct me, Josh, was maybe, 18 to 23, something like that. I think I can get you the actual number. We replaced well number 5. It's at the end of Vance Avenue. We replaced the pumps. We try to do that periodically. What that does is keep the production rate up on these wells. Over the years, as these pumps are used, they lose production. So we try to keep that up, keep it peak. So we replaced well 5 this year. And when I say replace, we replace pump, wire, the pipe, the whole 9 yards, just like it was new again. We rebuilt an altitude valve at the south tank, which is over off of Highway 9. Tell you a little bit about what altitude valve is when the south tank was built, years ago, it was built 10 foot higher in elevation, should have been 10 foot lower. I don't know why, I don't know what the miscalculation was, but because of that, it is connected to our biggest tank, which is Hemphill Tank. It was designed where Hemphill Tank was supposed to push water to the south tank, and then the altitude valve wouldn't let it come back. So when we realized years ago that that wasn't the way it was, and we had to put a pump in at Hempfield tank that actually pushes pressure, and then once it fills the south tank, the altitude valve holds the water and keeps it from sending back. So we had to rebuild that. That was a general maintenance you do every so many years. Automated remeter installs, we replaced or installed, 450 new automated meters. We've done that for the past couple years. We're probably halfway done. And when we get to our water budget, you'll see there's more funds budgeted, to keep going in that process to install this to complete our whole system to automation. Asheville water transfer update. We are in the phase 2. We have done our part. We are actually waiting on the state water supply section, which is the holdup now as far as the permit process. And after talking with them and collecting information and stuff, I think they have suffered labor shortages just like everybody across the state has. And what used to take 2 or 3 months to get engineering plans pushed through to replace lines or whatever is in some cases taking approximately 2 years. So it's probably been right at a year or so that we've been waiting, and we keep constant, contact with the engineers and the state, and that's basically what our holdup is. And as soon as we can get that, then we can move forward. But like I say, we got our part complete, as far as the pump house and stuff. We're just waiting on the permit process. So I like showing these totals. This is a total work orders for 2022. I give a 3-year. These stay pretty consistent, but they fluctuate a little bit. That could be for multiple reasons. It could be because of labor shortages. It could be for the type of job or whatever, but we stay consistent in the 3,000, mid 3,000s per year. This is a breakdown of that work order system. So line locates, which I look at that as far as building and stuff that goes on within town, because out of that 1,730, when I say line locates, that's other utility services, power, phone, anything that's underground. We do our own water, but it could be fiber optic, it could be anything. So when they're calling in, it could be MSD. So when they're calling in, it could be maintenance or it could be for building purposes. But we ourselves have 1,730 water locates a year in 2022. Water cut-ons, 612. That could be from new customers coming in, cutting water on, or it can be from going back and cutting water on from water cut-offs, which was 556 last year. We had 65 leaks, 56 leak checks, 331 meter maintenance, and then rechecks for meter reading. Sometimes you'll get rechecks because a customer has a question, whatever, we run back out and rechecks. We had approximately 200 of those. And then watershed maintenance, well house maintenance, and then miscellaneous water could be anything from a burnt washer and a meter right on down to just checking for a leak. Hydrant maintenance. I know during the year we usually have, it seems like here lately, 1 or 2 hydrants that these trucks making these tight turns around town usually run over one and we have to replace it. Or we take one of the older hydrants and we have to get a rebuild kit and just rebuild it. So this is a very interesting one right here that you'll be interested in. So this is how much water we pump versus how many gallons of water we purchase from Asheville. So if you see on the bottom, in 2020, we actually pumped 179 million, 179.5 million. And in 2022, we only pumped 138 million. If you look at Asheville in 2020, we purchased 70 million, thereabouts, 71 close to. In 2022, we purchased 187.5 million. So the reason that number is that way is for a few reasons. Well number 1, which is one on the golf course, we took offline for many reasons. The well's having a lot of trouble. It was failing a lot of our samples that we have to send to the state. So it was best to shut it down, and it was one of our less producers. So it's offline. So now we're down to 11 wells. Well number 17, which is one of our biggest producers, by looking at the records, when it was installed, produced 200 gallons a minute. That's a lot for a well. But over the years, the school would call, or a lot of places would call, and they would say the water was milky. Well, anytime you got milky water, you got air in the system. So it led us to do more research and got to thinking that maybe, it has to be coming from one of the wells. Well, I know when we had some water shortages in the past, the state requires you to pump water 12 hours on, 12 hours off. But during emergencies, if you get approval from the state, you can pump 24 hours around the clock, which we've done a couple times in the past, and that's when we would notice the milky water. So we budgeted last year to do a drawdown on one of our top producing wells, which was well 17, that's in the watershed. Well, after doing the drawdown, which to explain, to people that don't know in the public, a drawdown is where you put one of those flow meters on that well, which measures the water coming out. And then you put what they call a depth gauge on the head of the well, which shoots a ping down to the top of the water, sends the signal back and tells you the depth of the well. You pump the water to the well yields as much water as it can yield, and it can't yield no more, and that'll tell you how many gallons per minute you get. So after that drawdown, and the record showing it was getting 200 gallons a minute, it bounced back and forth between 75 and 90 gallons a minute. So that well's not producing anything like it did when it was put in years ago. And the reasons for that is, and I've stated this before, of course you don't see it with the naked eye, but the ground does shift, and the aquifers underground, they shift also. And over time, wells I don't want to say go dry, but they can relocate to where you don't have that water no more. So that could be one of the reasons too. And then the other reason is after we took over all the Asheville customers, it's a bigger demand on the system. So that's your three main reasons for that number being so high. You get more water usage for the customers you take over, and then we're not pumping as much water as we used to because we're a well short, and we're not pumping as many gallons per minute as we did. We can keep replacing well pumps going through the years to try to keep them efficient, pumping as many gallons as we can, and keep an eye on it. And we can also keep doing drawdowns on our wells to see, what they're pumping. But without that, that's why we're buying the amount of water that we are.
Do you have a sense as to how healthy the other wells are as far as what they're producing?
We've got our wellhead protection plan that's got all that information in it. That's got all the information on the wells from when they was put in. The documentation that we inherited that we got, and that's sort of what I'm going by, and then double checking to see how these changes are changing through the years. But yes, that information's in there.
And when was the last time we drilled a new well?
I don't remember the year. The mayor may remember better than me. The last ones we done was in Rocky Branch, if I'm correct about that, and I think they was 3 or 4. And because of bacteria issues and the sampling and stuff, or maybe too much of one thing in it, the state required them to be shut down.
And
So-
one of the places that we could possibly look at, that we pretty much exhausted most others, would be Blue Ridge.
Yes, Blue Ridge Assembly.
Blue Ridge Assembly.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that would be, if we were gonna look at trying to do some wells, I think that's where we ought to look. Cause I went up and spoke with Roger Hibbard years ago about it. The board was receptive to it, We'd have to pay them something, but and then it just kind of went dormant, so.
And I think that's a lot of
think
the
it's-
problems, having the land to do it, has been part of the issue for the town in the past, just like the Rocky Branch. We do own that land, but we can't drill a well there. We've drilled 3 or 4 and none of them's produced. So I think they run a short period of time and then we had to shut them down. So it was just, I don't want to say wasted money because it's just a chance you take, but it costs a lot more to drill wells now than it did back then. So, but all in all, we've got a great system, as far as technology and stuff and being up and current. It's just, wells are a logistical thing and, they change. You just don't know how often or how long, but they will change. So, but that's the reason that number's so high. And then if you get any questions or comments or anything, I'd be more than glad to answer them if I could.
Okay, thank you, Jamie.
Mhm.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
All right, next item, your consent agenda consists of 4 items this evening. First one being adoption of minutes, April 6th, April 10th, April 19th, and April 26th. Next, you have a budget amendment for the NCLM RMS Safety Grant. 5C is a budget amendment for the 2023 Valentine Greenway Challenge. And lastly is a special revenue grant fund ordinance for the Governor's Crime Commission grant for the police department. That'll be your consent agenda.
I was noticing in there in the minutes for the citizen comments, we were missing one comment, and that was from Rick Early that spoke.
In which settlement?
You're on April 10th.
The April 10th, okay.
Yeah,
We can amend
April
those.
10th. Yeah, that was not in there. That was about how the planning commission had made a mistake with the zoning request.
Thank you.
And I'm missing the April 26th minutes. I have March 29th.
That's almost in there, right?
So I would recommend that we pull that so that we can look at those next month.
How about the April 6th and the April 19th? And April 10th as amended.
All good by me.
Any other comments on the minutes, on the consent agenda? If not, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, any more discussion on it? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Okay. Now we're on unfinished business, Josh.
We have a citizen comment section, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, that's right. Get to that. Anybody wish to speak to the remaining items on the agenda?
I would like to make a comment on Josh's.
If you want to come on up. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Give your name and address, please, and you got 3 minutes.
Elizabeth Swan, 207 Gatchell Street. Josh with Recreation and Parks was talking about the increased use of the pavilion and the pool. And that just reinforces my statement about parking. Because from 9 to, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, seniors are coming in to do their activities and to have their lunch. And parking spaces is very limited when the pool is open. And some of these, I won't say elderly, older folks are, has some disabilities, walking, using the canes and the walkers. So we do need additional parking for that area. And I don't know where it's going to come from unless we build her up and down. So put that on the agenda to consider. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if nobody else is wishing to,
Is this concerning the land purchase proposal?
Yes.
yeah.
Sean Sloan, 115 3rd Street, Black Mountain. I want to comment on the offer that the town is considering to sell some land. I've given a lot of thought to what's being proposed, and I am basing it on what is written in the letter that was sent to you outlining the terms. Why are you even entertaining this offer? It is a half acre of land with a road frontage on East Street, with frontage on the creek. It's flat, and yes, it floods, and that's where you put parks. And it's in an underserved neighborhood. Mr. Hay lamented last meeting, we'd like to be able to use it for a pocket park in the future. What's the big deal except not having imagination? Wouldn't the community garden serve to occupy that space? Wouldn't the neighborhood like to have a pitch of grass that the kids can play on and put a picnic table next to the creek and chain it down so it doesn't get flooded? I just don't understand. It's a public good, and you're thinking of letting it go for nothing. There's a greenway proposed to run through that park, through that property, and have you considered the fact that we might need parking for the greenway so people can get on the greenway? That people are, in the future, you know, if we sell that property and they're walking down the greenway and there's a fence there or no trespassing signs, and they're going to look back and they're going to say, what were they thinking? This is something that is not a big ask to develop into a park. It's a public good, and it's not that big a deal to give some love to the thing and post a sign, you know, come and play here. So I think you're way off base in terms of even thinking about it, to say nothing of the fact that the offer for $35,000 is, and the tax value, the market value is $86,900. So that's an insult of an offer. The Mr. Sneed in the past has referred to the tax value as a bona fide value for the property. And so why are we entertaining an offer that's a fraction of what the land is worth? I don't think you've gotten an appraisal of it. And so we're giving it away, and we're taking it away from future generations of park. And sure, it doesn't look good now, but clean it up, you know, put grass on there, or put a garden on there, or put a blueberry patch like the gentleman next door wants to do, and then it'll be ours and everybody can enjoy it instead of putting it in the private hands. I think this is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Any more comments? If not, Josh?
All right, so continuing on from last meeting in regards to item 7A.
And I will excuse myself again because of conflict I've announced earlier.
Same with me.
There were some concerns at our last meeting, different questions came up. I know, looking at research, these two specific pieces of properties were not FEMA buyout properties. These were, those were other properties actually in that general area that were FEMA buyout properties, not these two properties. Also did include for you, it's on the screen. So this is a map from the Flood Risk Information System from FEMA and North Carolina Emergency Management, which shows you the floodplain in the area, the floodway. So this whole area is encumbered, obviously, by floodwater when we do have extensive rainfall amounts.
Can you, with your cursor, show where, where about that would
The
be?
river is gonna be in the center of this line.
Mhm.
The property is gonna be right around in this area.
It's right in the corner. If that's the road right there, it says right in that corner.
So right in here. This is the house on the other side of the river on Flag Creek.
And can you talk a little bit about the difference between a floodway and a flood zone? And what that means for
Floodway typically means you cannot build anything in it. You cannot have a rise in any kind of floodwaters. Non-encroachment zone, it's just tough to build anything in the floodway. As far as the floodplain goes, in the blue, that's your AE zone, which is your 100-year floodplain. You have to build to a certain base flood elevation. Don't know what that would be. It would require a survey to shoot that in and see. But if it's
Aren't
not
we 2 feet?
What's that?
I said, we have an ordinance, but it's 2 feet.
2 above, that's correct,
2
2
feet
feet above BFE. So if it was 900 feet, they'd have to build it at 902 at the base of the house. But it's buildable, but it's just, it's not as straightforward as a property without floodwater.
And I may be mistaken, so maybe you can correct me. I believe that all of the property in question is within the floodway, not the flood zone.
I don't know that I can correct you or confirm that, Councilmember Hay.
Does a stream run up the middle of the heart, like the diagonal line?
Typically.
Okay, then it's in the floodway.
Josh, tell us about the process. I'm sorry, the allergies are getting to me.
That's okay. So there's a couple of different, process you're talking about if you decide to move forward.
If we were to decide to move forward, that offer is not the amount.
It's not a final offer.
Right.
There will be opportunities for upset bids, things of that nature. We'll just follow what the general statute tells us. There's a couple of different options. The one coming to my mind is upset bid. So if you decide to take that offer, then we post that. Someone has a chance to upset that bid and it continues to go. I think you give a week at a time, typically how that works.
It's 10 days.
10 days.
Josh, think I know the answer to this based on a conversation you and I had. We haven't, the town hasn't had this property, hadn't had an appraisal done, correct?
No, sir. That's correct.
Or a broker opinion on value,
No, sir.
either one.
No, sir. Yeah, like Mr. Sloan said, the tax value for both pieces together is around 80. 161, and I think one's just short of, maybe it's just over 20, but.
Well, from going and looking at it, it's a pretty rough piece of property. I think it floods a lot constantly. And, if you put a playground in there, I think you'd be replacing a playground pretty constantly. I don't know, but I would be interested, and I would feel more, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I'd feel more comfortable having some better idea from a third party on value, as to whether or not, this could be the top price. I don't know. I have no idea. That's the only discomfort that I have with it.
You putting forth an idea that maybe we need to go ahead and get it appraised then before we continue on?
Well, I think our choices are an appraisal, which would probably cost you about $1,000, maybe. Or you also could get a broker opinion on value, which might be $200 or $300, and that's not as fancy. But for my mind, I'd be happy with a broker opinion on value. I just experienced real estate broker and say, here's what I think it's worth, and they usually have a pretty good idea.
I'll just tell you a concern I have that maybe y'all can address. Is it's a wooded piece of property right now, so for any of these alternate uses, and I am a big fan of pocket parks, don't get me wrong, I would love to do it, but you're gonna have to cut down some trees, and then the flooding problems are even worse. And since we keep repairing Veterans Park and Flat Creek, I'm just concerned about creating another liability that we're gonna have to keep repairing going forward. I was able to research a little bit and find some video of previous floods down there. And oh my goodness, we're not talking about a few inches of water. We're talking about raging torrents that went very, very deep and very, very wide. So I'll just, I'm just putting out my concerns, and if maybe you all have thought all that through and have answers about that, I'd be glad to hear it.
I think I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and was able to walk the park or not the park, the property over the weekend. And as other people have said, it is in quite disrepair at the moment, and it's hard to even imagine with the amount of flood damage that's in the existing park right now, or existing property right now, that a park would even be feasible. I still have a strong concern over just the idea of even selling a piece of land that the town owns. Regardless of whether we're using it as a park, I think the comprehensive plan outlined a need for additional green space and trees, and thinking about preserving some of that land feels important to me. As you said, Pam, right now it's trees, and that acts as a buffer. If we were to sell it, then we wouldn't have any control over what the next person could do with it. I know that Mr. Alexander, his vision for it sounds great, and sounds like a much better use for the property than it is right now. My fear is, though, that what happens next, and so even if we did nothing with it, even if we didn't turn it into a pocket park, I wonder if that's better than 10 years from now, seeing it clear cut and used for something else. There is the kind of question mark around the greenway that Mr. Alexander has, the easement for the greenway through. I guess it would come up through Vice Mayor's property if we were to follow the current plan. It would come up through the Vice Mayor's property, and then Mr. Alexander's property, and then into this property that we already own. So we don't need an easement for property we already own, but whether or not he would be willing to still give us an easement for his current property is, I guess, a question that I don't have an answer to. So it's nice to think that we could have that easement all the way up. Although if it floods as much as we've all kind of seen and done research on, I wonder how reasonable it is to think that we could have a greenway there that doesn't get washed out every couple of years anyway.
And would it be worth looking at that feasibility as we consider this property? I mean, would that greenway, would that even be an option worth calculating into a decision? Because I think that's kind of my top priority with this property is the way that this could extend the Flat Creek Greenway, and so I don't know that we have that answer without doing more research on it. I think the concerns are well stated tonight.
So we've heard from Bill about his concerns on the value of it, and of course then Doug, just what he just gave on, and then we could, ask the gentleman if a right of way across his existing property is possible as part of the contingency of buying this.
I believe he shared a letter.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw somewhere that that said that if he were to purchase the property, then he would give right away, right, across his existing property.
And so would I. It's in the letter. That's the only reason I'm saying it.
Okay.
So obviously, we've got a chance for that. So that's not so as far as the greenway goes, the greenway looks to be taken care of. As far as the right of way.
Well, I mean, he's offering this if we sell the property. I think the feasibility, right? I mean, I can't speak to the velocity of the water coming through when it floods. I mean, there's a big difference between, a gentle soaking of water versus rushing.
But I guess if he is willing to give an easement, whether we ever use it or not, if he gives it, it's secured.
That's right.
Whether you actually want it or it's feasible, I don't know.
Right.
It is, that's a different question.
So what I'm hearing is that the right of way seems to be taken care of as far as just actually having the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
The value of the property seems to be in question here as to going ahead with the appraisal or getting a broker's estimate.
I'm happy to do either y'all would like to do.
Sounds like really the board's not ready to act. Is that pretty much correct? Is that if we follow that and get the brokers, is there anything else we need to look into before the next meeting then?
I would be curious, before we were to get it appraised, if there's consensus or interest in actually, if say the value came back at 50,000 or whatever, if we were interested in selling it at that point, or.
To me, the value, the money we get out of it's not the determining factor as much, whether it's 35 or 50. I mean, it's money, I get it, but I think your argument was persuasive about even if we never do anything to it, we still own it. I found that to be really persuasive to me.
Well, is there a motion to put this to bed one way or the other?
I would move to not entertain the selling of this property. And thank Mr. Alexander for the offer, and again, it's nothing against his idea and proposal, I think it's great, but I think,
Okay, so that's a formal motion.
yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor of selling the property? Well, just all in favor of the other motion.
Wait, what am I voting on?
I'm getting confused.
So what are
So all those in favor of not selling the property?
Well, should we do a motion of selling it and then I can vote no? Is that what we should do? No, we shouldn't. Motion to reject the offer. Motion to reject the offer.
Motion to reject the offer. You make that motion.
I'd make that motion.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. No, okay. So 3-1. All right. All right, next is the Stormwater Management Utility Enterprise Fund.
I'm gonna call up our finance director, Tammy Holland, to lead us through this.
Try to lead you through it.
Mayor and Board, we are presenting amendments to the stormwater ordinance. There is a lot of red striking, I'm sure that you saw from the attorney's previous ordinance where we made changes. A lot of those changes were just in the flow of the ordinance in itself. That's why there was so many. The major part of the ordinance that I wanted to make sure that you were aware of was the changing of the collection and the billing of the stormwater fees. With the new ordinance, the stormwater utility fees would be assessed monthly instead of yearly. The billing and collection of the charges and fees related to stormwater would be administered by myself, the finance director. The stormwater charges will be billed to the customer receiving the service. Currently, they are all billed to the property owner. With this change, they would be to whoever is residing at that property. If the person that is, there is not a utility service there, if they don't have water and sewer through us, then it would be billed to the property owner, and that would be billed at a monthly service rate also through the utility billing system. When the charges, if someone pays less than the payment that's due on their utility bill, the payments would be applied first to the delinquent stormwater fees, then to the delinquent water and sewer fees, then the current stormwater fees, then the current water and sewer charges. The disconnection of utility service resulting from unpaid fees and charges will be handled according to our current utility billing policy and procedures. Stormwater charges are the subject to the fees, penalties, and collection methods outlined in our utility billing process that we currently use. That is the major changes, I believe, in the ordinance. Ron can.
It looks like a lot of change, but the real change is the small part of the billing and collection.
Is there any questions, comments?
So it would be billed monthly?
Yes.
It's
So
not
if it's
it's not an option, it's just done monthly?
It's done monthly. If the customer does not have a utility bill, they're welcome to pay the whole amount, and we just use that credit to offset that charge each month. It will, like, if they have a $72 stormwater bill, then it's gonna be $6 a month on their water bill. So hopefully it would help some of the financial burden that people have, and they will also be subject to, if they need financial assistance, they're able to reach out to sources for that, which they currently cannot do with the stormwater charged separately.
Explain that a little bit more in detail then.
So, there is nonprofit organizations that help customers with their utility bill if they have a
Correct.
financial
Yeah.
hardship. If the stormwater bill is billed on the utility bill, then those agencies would also help pay that stormwater bill if the customers reached out.
This original ordinance was passed, what, I think here, what, May 11, 2020?
Sounds right.
That's been about, well,
2 years.
close to 3
3
years.
years. Yeah. 21.
Okay.
And when they started billing the stormwater fees, we did not have a way to add the stormwater fees to our utility program at the time. Because we've changed softwares now, we have that ability. And I will tell you that researching it, the School of Government did a study, and 60% of the municipalities charged stormwater fees on the utility bills. 20 odd percent did it on property tax bills. And then you had about 10% that was standalone. And those 10% that were standalone, they were mostly municipalities that did not have were not able to bill utilities or their taxes. They were done by probably the county. So they did not have a way to attach those bills to the stormwater bills to those existing bills.
I just reading through this, because this was passed before I was on the board here. It says, all developed land in the town, whether public or private, should be subjected to a stormwater service charge set by the town council. And then we look over here and we see tier 4, and tier 4 says, each parcel owned by the town of Black Mountain, state of North Carolina, or the United States of America. Oh, why would it even be in there?
Because the legislature said so.
So,
Somebody told us yet.
We can't charge the state, we can't charge the feds, and to charge ourselves will be taken out of our right-hand pocket, or left.
Yeah.
But the state and feds are exempted whether we like it or not.
and so we're calling this is a fee.
It's a utility fee.
So it's a utility fee. So all the different private, nonprofit organizations
We'll pay the,
also have to pay.
That's correct.
that's correct.
Okay. How much is in the fund now?
So, the first year we got $350,000, okay? Now, that's not in the fund. That pays for salaries, it pays for insurance, it pays for materials. So the whole budget for.
How many employees do we have?
We have one full-time employee, however, there are many other employees that get, their salaries allocated to that department because they do stormwater work, like Jamie's crew. Cleaning out storm drains, picking up leaks, we have to record all that information and send it to the state, every bit of it.
Would you give me a copy of that, too, please, just how that's broken down?
And currently,
The only-
I'm sorry to interrupt. So in '22, we had approximately 10% of the stormwater bills that were unpaid. That was about 40,000. So far this year, we have about 30% that's unpaid, about 108,000. So we have a total of 148,000 unpaid stormwater fees. And we have no way to really collect those because there's no recourse if people do not pay currently. So,
We sent to collections.
well, yeah, we can eventually, but it's sort of, we can't say, well, we're gonna cut off your stormwater. I mean, we can't stop it from raining, so if we send it to collections, I mean, a lot of them also, we can't send it to collections unless the bill's over $50. So you also have the fees associated with that on top, of the staff's time of having to do all that.
Steve, could you explain then that D part, the combined utility bill? Because it sounds like, from what I read it, that the first amount of money that anyone would pay would go towards their delinquent fee.
So
And then, so that would mean then that if they did want to pay their $6, they would probably be $6 short on their water bill.
And their water will be
Then
disconnected.
therefore they can be cut off.
Yes.
Is that,
Yep.
is that the way that this would
That's the
work?
way it reads, that's correct.
So that's sort of giving us the utility service, because we can disconnect the water, we can't disconnect stormwater, but,
But now that
That
it's
is-
gonna be billed all on the same
Yes.
bill, we can disconnect for that.
yes.
That's why I would hope that sometime we would look at this fee, especially considering how much money that we got, especially coming in, you know, I mean.
That's for one project, Mr. Mayor, not for the entire system. That $5.4 million is one project.
It's big money, but it came with strings.
We're not just sitting on that money.
One other thing is that it's got here that, the planning director should prepare a stormwater credit incentive manual setting forth the appropriate credit applications process, eligibility criteria, and standards upon which such credits are given. Do we have that?
We do not have that ready yet. We are working on that.
Okay.
The effective date of that is put forward, it's not immediate for the rest of it. Understanding, we need to collect a couple of years of data before there was a means of coming up with a formula of how to credit somebody if they put in, say, devices that control stormwater. Just didn't have the information to create that formula yet.
So at some point in the future that we're gonna be debating that, and we could be debating some other stuff too, like folks that put in a rain garden are still being charged $72.
Sure.
Yet they've got to pay each year or every third year to have it
That's correct.
inspected.
That's correct, which is by law. It's not something we created. It's a federal law.
I think it's something we can look into in the future.
So as proposed, we have the room to explore that nuance down the road. Is that-
Once staff has enough information to start presenting you with a formula, then you can look at those different control devices and see what effect they're having
Yeah.
and how much it benefits your system. The stormwater utility fee doesn't just pay for keeping the water clean, which the devices do. It's a matter of everything in our stormwater, including drainage, conveyances, and everything.
Did this go in front of the planning board for them to talk about?
No, sir.
No.
Didn't?
No, sir. It's not required to, so we did not send it to planning.
Well,
board.
no, I mean, I know it's not required to, and I just was wondering what that's, I mean, they're a recommending board to this council.
They are.
I think for them to.
This is out of
go ahead and
out of
be
their
able to discuss
purview, out of their purview, Mr. Mayor.
This was not done on a whim. There were many, many meetings and a huge amount of discussion and many reports and studies. It was not,
Well, no,
Just
I'm not
one day
talking
we
about
said,
that, I'm
"Let's
talking
do
about
that."
this particular issue here.
I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes it a lot easier and we'll streamline it.
If I'm not mistaken, we instructed, like several months ago, to make this shift from
Yes.
annual
Yeah.
to monthly. So this is just implementing what we discussed.
Yes, it has to be approved by the board for
Right,
us to
sure.
be able to include it in the utility bills.
as long as we're here, can I ask a question? I'm not sure if it's you or you, but in the tier system, does a little business, say downtown, pay the same rate as, say, a giant structure, say Ingalls? So where do they fall?
Your large places like Ingalls or a big strip mall development falls into that higher category, which is more than your bank or your dentist office.
So like the tier 5? Yeah, industrial. Heavy industrial, including asphalt mining, warehousing, and processing facilities. That includes Ingalls. Grocery store? No, I'm not talking about the distribution center, the grocery store.
It used to say, it would have the like strip mall style, large retail development. They have been historically been assessed that higher rate.
I guess I just didn't see retail in here. It's all about asphalt and mining.
So
You
tier
can-
2 is retail establishments.
Right, tier 2 would be more like little downtown places, right? They're
Yes.
not big,
Moderate
giant
impact,
retail things.
You can make that text amendment right now. That is the, Ingalls has been assessed the larger rate, and so have all these larger strip malls. There are 5 or 7 of them, I can think of offhand, that have been assessed and paid that higher rate.
Well, I just wondered, because I've been asked, and I wanted to make sure we weren't charging a little dinky store downtown the same as
No.
the giant.
None of our stores are deep.
They're adorable, little charming stores, that's what I meant, charming. Right, they are charming. Oops.
Shoot the emails for that one.
We will clear up the language in that, in the motion for this, if you want, that is an easy thing to do. I also wanted to check about a date effective for this.
May 11th, 2020 was just acknowledging that we needed to have a stormwater program.
Well, isn't it January 1, 2024, the new?
My question about starting
Oh.
the monthly, that we would have an interim period between now and when this becomes effective, where we send out another round of final for really, like amnesty period of anything that is over $50. For everybody, I'm sorry, over $50, for everybody, to try to see if people can catch up before this all becomes effective. We have been gearing up for that, so we were hoping for, I think Ron and I discussed a date effective sometime between now and August, maybe 60 days, for people to get caught up before this becomes effective.
So if we add something to the motion, like retail over a certain square footage, is that appropriate?
We do descriptors of like strip mall development,
Big box.
big box, those are more helpful.
To tier 5.
Yes.
So if someone is behind on their payments now, when this goes into effect, whatever they owe will be on that next utility bill. So if they haven't paid the $70, $72, then that will be added to their first utility bill. Is that right?
We can add it, but we wouldn't be able to disconnect their water services because of it, because this is happening after.
Okay, so none of the, okay,
They could go to collections.
They could still go to collections, but we wouldn't be able to follow their payment coming in, being applied to that first rule on those.
So what, 2 months, 3 months? Something like that before that would kick in.
okay.
Yes, and so it's the middle of May now, so end of July, 1st of August, date effective would be.
And what are the 5 charges for tier 1 through 5?
Tier 1, sorry?
The costs.
Yeah, the tier 1 is $72, tier 2 is $240, and you have undeveloped, which is nothing, and you have certain categories that represent those places that we cannot compel payment, and then you have the more intense use, and that's what is it? It's $1,200 a year. Sorry, it's $100 a year. One way.
And that's part of our budget, right?
Mhm.
So
That's in the fee schedule.
schedule.
And it's been the same since it was started.
but so this next billing cycle for the utility bill it starts when?
August.
August?
That's when we've been sending them out.
Okay.
The new ones have been going out in August.
So if we pass it today, you're asking for the grace period. If we pass it today, next month's bill wouldn't have the $6 on it.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
We originally tried to follow like the tax schedule because we were running on a calendar year, and now we will be able to, we'll run to August, and then that won't matter anymore.
Anybody got any more questions? If not, then we'll hear a motion.
I just died to ask a question.
I'm sorry.
I move we approve as presented.
Any more discussion? Or
I was
Were you
hoping we
amending
could
it?
add the language around the large hotels.
As amended.
And are we putting in this 60-day amnesty period does that become part of this document as well?
Maybe become effective August.
It's the,
I think we need
this,
it, but
I don't
I
think we
wasn't
did.
clear.
This
Okay.
bill is just addressing, amending it. This 60-day grace period is basically what staff, and well, apparently with consent of the board, is gonna give people so we can get those past dues caught up without having to go to collection.
okay. So Pam's is basically big box stores. and street
As
development.
defined,
Sure.
strip malls and whatever you said.
Big box.
Yeah.
Strip malls and big box, okay. So that's what's on the motion also. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, what do we got next?
Next item will be the Field of Honor Parade, Kiwanis Club of Black Mountain, Swananoa, and I have a few folks here that want to talk. Lynn Dees, please come up and address mayor and council.
I'm Lynn Dees, 127 Fairway Drive, and current president of the Black Mountain Swananoa Kiwanis Club. We are sponsoring a Field of Honor in September. First time we've tried this community project, and it's been very successful in other places. We are working with a nonprofit Colonial Flag Foundation to get 100 3-by-5-foot flags on 8-foot poles, flag staffs. And they'll be up in the lot between the Methodist Church and Harwood's Home for Funerals. So it'll be right in the center of town. We would like to have a parade for the kickoff opening session of it, which will be September 11. And this Colonial Flag Foundation was founded because they wanted to honor the victims of September 11 when the terrorists brought down the towers in New York. So this has been going on for about 20 years. And we want to bring this here. It will be, we'll be honoring all of our veterans, living or dead, active duty military, first responders, including police and fire and EMS, with a flag. Anybody who wants to get a flag for someone that they'd like to honor. And we need permission to have a parade from Tractor Supply down to the lot there at Harwood Home for Funerals. I think you have a letter from us.
Just remind the board real quick, if the board decides they want to go through with this, staff will put together essentially an ordinance that we need to send to DOT for them to bless. They have to look over it and make sure they're okay with it. And then that would be, I think we have to give 60 days to them to do that. So that would give us enough time for them to comment. But we don't know what they're going to say until we submit it to them, so.
I move that we go ahead and approve this request.
Very good. Any discussion?
I think it's a wonderful project.
I think it's actually
My only
marvelous.
suggestion is to do it in the morning, perhaps before traffic's really bad.
We're looking at 1 o'clock because we will get some of our student service leadership programs that Kiwanis sponsors in the schools involved with Owen High and the
That makes sense.
elementary school and, yeah, uh-huh.
Seeing any other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. Good project.
Thank you.
Next item is our public hearing. 9A, public hearing for voluntary annexation for portion of property owned by Vince and Libby Snell. Ordinance -2303.
You open the public hearing? Okay, so, we're gonna be talking about two things back to back. I don't want to confuse them. And there's a lot of potential for legal jargon to happen. I'm gonna try to steer clear of it. So the annexation is of the area that is in blue. It is about 1.36 acres, and the parent parcel is 8.41 acres. It's at North Fork Road, and you see Holly Avenue right there. And so the rest of it is out in the county. And the applicant wishes for this lower section to be wholly within the town limits, just like the little triangle, funny part, at the top is in town limits. How the town limit line came to be at this angle, I don't know the answer to that. But that diagonal line does create an odd little configuration there that they're seeking to rectify. You will see that there are 3 lots proposed there. Don't let that's not up for approval. That's not something that can be considered in your vote for annexation or zoning decision. So the applicant, like Josh said, Vince and Libby Snelling, they submitted this application, went to planning board. Planning board does not make a vote on annexation. They just make comment, and they felt that this was a reasonable thing for you all to consider. I did want, yep.
So I was confused because the rezoning worksheet's blank from the zoning.
It's where we're doing annexation.
It's 2 separate.
Okay, but,
It's 2 pieces.
right,
Step 1,
Annexation first.
annexation.
okay, I'll ask that same question in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's y'all's to fill out.
Okay.
So I just wanted to point out that Elevate Black Mountain, our comprehensive plan, does provide guidance for criteria when you're talking about other service extensions or annexation criteria. I think there are 9 of those. There are 3 that are most relevant to this particular application, and that is that it aligns with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map of the mountain residential area, which is primarily residential in nature. The proposed area makes for more contiguous and reasonable town limits, which I would argue that currently are not either of those things. And the new town boundary is more logical. And that it is also contiguous, obviously, to the existing. This is not a satellite annexation. So those 3 criteria are fully met within this request.
The lots that are on the left side of the road, those I would assume were in the county at some previous point that the Alexanders had.
Probably
And
at
then
some,
that was brought into the town like they're asking here.
probably at some previous point. Don't know when.
Make any more questions?
Just can you quickly speak to the benefits of annexing property?
Well, when you gain zoning control of that property, that you are making it more consistent with the town limits that it is surrounded by. I don't want to go into those lists of things and how they're different quite yet. But you do gain control of that in that regulatory sense, whereas you do not have control of that now. And certainly any sort of minor tax base that would come from a couple of houses that have potential to be built there.
Primarily, those folks can't build on that unless they get city water. They might be able to reduce and get 2 lots out of it and have a well, shared well, but otherwise, they couldn't tap onto Black Mountain water.
Not necessarily so.
And that's,
If you want town water and you're outside of town, you have to ask to be annexed. The town can still decide not to annex and still provide town water.
I think there's also an exception for single-family houses for request for annex. You could have out-of-town service, and you would not be in town limits if you're a single-family residence for water service.
You just charge out town rates.
That's right.
Water.
So they could tap on. There is water and public utilities in this area. So you're gaining 1.36 acres to the town of Black Mountain's jurisdiction.
Is there any implication then that the rest of that property looks like it's surrounded by the town? That then they come back and say, hey, we want to be in there too because we're in there.
So there are not parcel lines on that. The parent parcel is irregularly shaped. It is not a nice tidy piece right above it. There is no cooling off period required for annexation petitions.
Could you address a little bit the concerns that was it Mrs. Shivers? About runoff and so on her property?
No, I've not issued, the town has not issued a multifamily permit. So I'm guessing it is an adjacent parcel in the county. So we have not issued, I mean, she mentioned a multifamily development, which is not from us. I'm not actually sure where it is, but it's not in town's jurisdiction. So it wouldn't be under our regulations.
Question about the public hearing process, since it's been a little while. There is a time for public comment during the public hearing. You present it and open it up, and then there's public comment. Is that how that?
That's correct.
Okay. So before we take action, we would allow for public comment.
If we want to move forward, we need to get a motion to open it up.
Public hearing.
Oh, we haven't done that.
No.
I moved to open the public hearing.
Okay, in discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have a public hearing. Do we have anyone wishing to speak at the public hearing? Please come forward.
This is on annexation.
You're on annexation. Give your name and address, please.
Kathy Phillips, 26 Highview Drive in Black Mountain. As you know, I'm on the planning board. We did discuss this annexation, and it is a weird shape. It made sense only if we put it in context of, it was very difficult to divide annexation and rezoning. We did not support annexation if the zoning was in the UR8. But we would support annexation if it's SR2 and the property owner agreed to that. So it's kind of hard without having the whole picture to try to decide this before you hear the rest of the story. So that is ours. We did not want to have another high density, development going up the steep slope like we have in other areas of town. So that was the reason for our decision to support annexation only with the lower density zoning, which you can't discuss until the next. Thought I'd remind you. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? Please.
Tim Shivers, 140 North Fork. These lots that are laid out here in this diagram, is this the lots that are gonna be proposed for the development of this 8 acres? Or do we not know? Cause I haven't seen any, maps.
Well, I think as it is now, it has to be voted on as to bring the land in.
Okay, I understand,
It's only 1.36 acres. The rest of it is not being annexed.
Okay, well, this isn't an annex question, this is more of a development, and maybe it might need to wait till later. But as far as, we live right next to it, and we really have no idea of the layout of how the land's gonna be broken down into different lots. So is what I'm asking here, is that diagram pretty much close to the way they wanna, the way the seller wants to break that down?
Yes.
That's what was
Potentially.
presented to the planning board.
Well, this is a minor subdivision. It is not subject to the planning board. It is a use by right.
Okay,
It's an administrative process.
I just wanna know if it was similar
Can't-
to.
It's a little, I could not erase those. But you
Okay.
cannot make your decision for annexation or rezoning based on the potential. You have to consider all the potential things And we'll talk more about that in the zoning part.
Okay, thank you,
It
appreciate
will-
it.
It will be clearer. Kathy's not wrong. It does make more sense when we talk about it together. But they are legally separate things, and I don't want to muddy the waters too much.
Anybody else? Yes, Sharon.
Oh, sorry.
My name is Sharon Tabor. I live at 141 North Fork Road, which is across the street from Ruth. My concern is about the additional traffic. There is, right at Holly Avenue between Chinkapin and Holly, there is a hill. And every morning I have to look 3 times before I pull out of my driveway because you never know when the cars are coming over there. And I can't pull out of the upper drive because it's blocked. You can't see over that hill. And my concern is that how do you control the extra traffic, the people coming out of Chinkapin, the extra traffic and being hit because it's a sight visibility issue? Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak?
My name is Dan Hall. I live on Chinky Pin Hill, 21 Chinky Pin Hill. And currently that is a private drive. My question is, how are these new lots going to be accessed? And it's my understanding that on a private road, you can only have 3 houses. I don't know if that's,
That's on the 15-foot wide private driveway, and I think Chinkapin's about 50 feet wide.
okay, so
50-foot
other,
driveways are limited to 3 houses.
okay. My other question is, if the town is gonna annex this area, are they gonna be responsible for maintenance of that road? Currently, I'm the only one who is taking care of the road.
No, the answer to that is no. We would not be responsible for that road.
Because the request here is not to annex Chinkapin.
If I may jump in at this point, I've got an ordinance floating around that's not in your packet that describes the property being annexed. And because what we have is just reference to the deed that the 8 acres we're not annexing or it's not proposed to be annexed. And I've prepared a legal description that does include the footprint of Chinkapin in these 3 lots. It makes no sense for us to annex on both sides of a private road and leave that strip of land outside the town.
Most of Chinkapin is already in the town limits. A private road can be brought up to town standards and offered. That's, it's always an option. But its mere existence in town limits does not make it, by definition, a public road.
Do you see that blue stripe that cuts across the lots and then diagonally across Chinkapin?
Yeah.
That puts almost, better than a third of Chinkapin's already in the city limits.
The upper 2/3.
Yes.
The lower part is in the city
But I
limits.
mean, the town doesn't have any responsibility
No,
to go
sir.
ahead
No.
and pay that or to
No.
take care of it.
No, sir.
No. Our policy toward taking over the maintenance of roads that are private in developments and subdivisions is if somebody wants to be taken in, they have to build it to town standards and then offer it. And if they do offer it under those conditions, we're not obligated to take it.
Ron, I'm confused, but it's blue line up here.
That is the town limits. How that happened in the past, I don't have a clue. It's just,
So all of lot 1 and 2/3 of lot 2 are in the town.
Are in
limits
town.
Currently in a tiny bit of lot 3.
Oh, I'm seeing it opposite. I'm
The
seeing it
green,
opposite.
so it's extra confusing if you look at the county website, because the county line is in 3 different places.
Oh, my.
But this came over, the green line jogs down and it catches the top of 3, and the top of 2.
That's correct. The bottom, all of lot 1 and 2/3 of lot 2 are in the county currently.
in the count, oh, I see, so
You
the
see,
top
it's
part
extremely confusing.
is the town.
Yes.
So with the blue, what you can't see is that there's a green line that
Yeah,
almost
that's
touches, but it doesn't.
I was trying to make it clear, apparently
No,
it
no,
made
no,
it
no.
harder to read.
So
not what I
if
meant.
that is north, the north part of the lighter
Yeah.
lots are in the town.
That's right,
currently.
that's right.
Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
So this would not address that other lot on the other side of Chinkopin that's orange.
Say that again.
I say,
We're gonna let the applicant talk.
Thanks.
Scott Russell, 15 Teresa Way, and I'm the realtor for the applicant. So the gray area is Buncombe County. And for some reason on GIS, that green line is a zigzag that comes across the north side of Lot 3 and zigzags back left to North Fork, and then goes back right. We don't know why. There was confusion between the county and the town of who has.
That's right. You're good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
So the 3 lots were surveyed out and proposed to. The reason we chose that north line across the top of Lot 3 is because that evens up that line with the red properties to the left of Chinkopin all the way to the line coming down Genesis. It kind of felt like it should be in the town anyway, and now it'll be nice and even. And then that's how we came up with, we wanted a minor subdivision, not a major, so that's how we came up with 3 lots. And then because of the 0.7 acre size, SR2 was fine. We actually applied for UR8 only because all the red stuff you see is UR8.
So that little green triangle that's currently in the red, in the UR8 there on the left side, is that county? Or is that just?
Yeah, so on the GIS, it's blue and green overlaid. It's I can show you it's weird.
So that bottom triangle is in the county.
On that red parcel,
Yes.
if you look at it on GIS, it looks like it's both. You can see 2 colors on that triangle. I can't explain it. It's just, I thought it was a GIS glitch, but the county said, we don't know. So, but the rest of the property going up the mountain is county.
in the gray.
And so
Correct.
the Chinquapin Road that is currently the bottom third that's in the county.
The bottom third next to lot 1 would be in this town.
Currently, it's not.
No.
But if we annex it,
It's.
According to GIS, currently it is in
it
the
is.
town.
It is.
Everything
So
on
that blue line should really be
Basic,
go down lot 1.
so this is oriented north up. Everything below the blue line, the top blue line, is in the town.
No,
That is.
no, it's just the opposite.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, sorry. See, even I'm confused. I've been doing this for 6 months. So you're right, that's a zigzag. I know, I'm sorry. It's late, Bill, I'm tired, man. Yeah, the zigzag part had me messed up. So it's like a little sliver of town between 2 slivers of county.
This map in our packet's almost easier to understand than that one. I guess the blue line's what gives me.
The blue line is the area you would get. That's what we brought into the town. So that's the subject, that's the 1.36 acres.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
That's, okay.
my fault.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Any more comments, or do we have anybody else wish to speak?
And I was gonna address Dan Hall's question about the road. Miss Snelling's property is already, it has deeded access from Chinkopin, and she will bring those 3 lots into road maintenance on that road. So when she sells them, which is the plan eventually, they'll be subject to road maintenance up to the top of lot 3. There is no further plan for the acreage above that.
No, man.
Yeah, I mean, to my knowledge, there is none.
Okay. Any more comments?
all I got.
Anybody else wish to speak? If not, I have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes. Now, do we have a motion to adopt the ordinance as presented?
All right, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'd rather you adopt this ordinance as written. It has a meets and bounds description of the area. And it properly identifies the owner. The Snellings have put that property into a trust. So the ordinance reads that it is owned by the trust, and the description and meets and bounds that I put together from their survey. Now, it's overlapping some area that's already in town, but it gives you a legal description that's mappable, and somebody can find it on the ground next year.
Maybe we'll send it to Buckingham County.
Mhm.
We can pick out the lines.
Yeah.
You did have a little wish to look at this.
Well, yeah, we're gonna adopt it.
I mean,
Jessica, I know we're not talking about zoning, but there's nothing stopping someone from building on those lots now, right?
That's correct.
This is, okay,
this will be,
this is for the zoning,
if
but
this passes, then this will be the
Right.
one we're talking
but
about.
this says 2304.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha, thanks. I just flipped in.
While I'm reading that and looking over that, I just want to make a comment about speaking to the civics and their concerns about affordable housing. We've gotten into issues here in this town, I hope this board sometime, maybe with the planning department will help us out with trying to go ahead and come up with something that will really deal with affordable housing. We've had a big development over here at the golf course that originally came into the town and was going to be part of an affordable housing project. Unfortunately, the recession of 2008 took out the owner of it, got on the chopping block and got bought out by somebody else. And so the new group that came in went ahead and said, we'll just follow what they did. Hey, that sounds good, we'll have a plan for affordable housing. We don't have any teeth in our ordinance, and that development there has no affordable housing yet. So I certainly hope that this board would sometime in the future, look at ways to go ahead and putting some teeth into something for affordable housing.
So, what do we? Are you waiting on me? What are you waiting on me?
I haven't gotten to see.
I mean, I
the
just
ordinance
want
yet.
to see that.
I'm
I wasn't
sorry,
seeing
I
it
was
too.
thinking.
That's all right. I don't understand what we're doing.
That's the amended one that has the correct legal description. Is that correct?
It is the description drafted from the survey that the applicant provided, and does pick up the piece of Chinquapin, this, the old short strip that's in the county. Because in fact, they own it. They own the dirt under it.
Right, okay. Got it. I didn't realize that.
We're done.
Mr. Mayor, I move the adoption of the ordinance as amended by our attorney that everyone has seen.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. All right, let's move on to B, public hearing.
I'll pass somebody down the zoning ordinance, proposed zoning ordinance and spend it also.
Yeah.
Oh, pass that one down.
Probably there. Yeah. And the only change to that is to insert correct name of the applicant and the legal description.
So here's the zoning part that everybody's more accustomed to talking about. I am not going to read you word for word the staff report. You have that in your agenda packet. But most notably, the area to be rezoned, we said 1.36 acres. The average slope is 18.3% for the total parent parcel. That is how the steep slope calculator works. We cannot parse it out for a little subsection. It's undeveloped, mostly wooded area. It's not subject to any sort of zoning overlay or anything of that nature, and it is serviceable by public utilities. The initial application was for UR8, just because that's what they were surrounded by. But when Planning Board reviewed this application, they discussed creating a split zone. So the part of this that's coming in would actually be SR2. This did not require any kind of change to be made by the applicant with their concept. Like no application for subdivision has been made, but conceptually they exceed the requirements for SR2 as it is. SR2 was preferable to Planning Board because of the steep slope in the area, and this would allow these lots to stay and make it harder to subdivide them and reduce the density in the area. It does create a spot zone by doing this because we're surrounded by orange and now we're talking about something else. That is not prohibited in North Carolina. It just means it has to be subject to additional scrutiny, has to rise to the occasion. Mr. Sneed felt that the environmental concerns and steep slope that were expressed by the Planning Board rose to that occasion and we're comfortable moving forward with that recommendation. And the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend the SR2 designation with the blessing of the owner. So I want to point out, when we talk about the advantages of having it brought into the town, the SR2 designation is significantly more limited in the types of uses compared to those in the county. We have only a handful of very low intensity uses, primarily being residential. Now, the minimum lot size in SR2 is half an acre as opposed to the 1 acre in its current county zoning. But the number of uses is much, much smaller. So not only by bringing into the town are you actually reducing the number of variety of uses that could be developed right in a pocket of what is otherwise surrounded by the town, you're also making it subject to our stormwater ordinances, our stream buffer ordinances, and things of that nature that we have locally that the county does not necessarily have. So you are gaining some environmental controls in that way. And that's it for the zoning. If you have any questions.
Okay, do I have any motion to open up the public hearing? Rezone.
So
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we have anybody that wishes to speak to rezoning of this property? Yes.
My name is Charlene Hall. I live at 21 Chinkapin Hill. And my concern is the runoff from 3 additional homes on Chinkapin, as well as the potential for any that might be in the future above those 3 homes. The runoff is an issue right now. When we have a heavy rain, it washes out what essentially is Chinkapin Hill is essentially a driveway. It is, mostly some gravel because we have done that and bonded, et cetera. But a lot of the dirt washes out, and when we have built ditches on both sides to try to alleviate that problem. What concerns me most is having additional people on that driveway. If someone is coming down that driveway and I am pulling in to go up the driveway, there's no way for 2 cars to pass on Chinkapin Hill. So that would mean I've got to back out into North Fork Road in the dip and in the curve so that somebody else can come down the driveway. So these are just some of the concerns that I have, the environmental concerns when they start building and taking down trees, et cetera, then there will be even more issues. With the seriousness of the runoff, actually causes, that washboard effect. And then we have somebody come in and grade the driveway and put down the bonding, et cetera, too. But we have to do that about 3 times a year now that we are paying for it by ourselves. So that is a concern, and especially since I'm now told that the town will not be assisting with any kind of helping with the driveway. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments before we close the public hearing? Oh, just please.
So I made this point earlier, but I would just say that by having 3 more neighbors, you would have 3 more people contributing to road maintenance. And if in the future those neighbors wanted to get together to redo this road to town specifications, they could do so, and it would be a much cheaper per neighbor project. Or they could keep it gravel and let it be maintained by 3 more people than it is now. It sounds like now it's just 1. So anyway, that's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Not seeing anybody rushing up here. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it passes. We're closed now to adopt the zoning ordinance that Sneed had sent out here. This is a revised one too, correct?
It's amended to add the description, correct the names of the petition.
Jessica, would you mind, as a refresher for us and also for the community, talking about the differences between SR2 and UR8 on a broad level? I know there's many.
Well, the greatest being the density. UR8, you're going to have 8 units, up to 8 units or acre, as opposed to 2. And to some of the concerns they're being discussed, this property can already be developed in a number of ways in the county. By annexing it and zoning it, you are not making it buildable or useful. It's just subject to our rules as opposed to the county's. We have stormwater regulations available to us locally that the county does not have. And certainly if there's things built outside of the town limits, we can't influence how that works. And so we actually have less impact and greater controls under our regulations than the counties with our zoning.
So just to keep it clear, if we don't annex it.
You already-
You did
We've already-
annex it.
We've already, I'm sorry, we've already did that. So if we don't rezone it, I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. If we don't rezone, then it's still gonna stay under URA. Is that what it is right now?
So right now right now it is zoned in the county. The
Okay.
pieces that are in the county, it's RLD.
Okay.
It's-
But since we've annexed it.
It'll be
It is now
SR2.
part of the town.
If we
So-
ended the
You-
meeting right now,
It is URA.
No,
No.
you have to, it has
Hasn't
no,
been zoned.
it has not been
zoned.
zoned. That's what you're doing now.
okay.
So if we fail to zone it,
Your attorney can answer that question.
Yeah, you've got, as far as zoning regulations go, right at the moment, you have a no man's land.
exactly.
But we do need to zone it.
You
So
do
we
need
have
to
to
zone
zone
it
it.
something.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all too.
That was my question.
That, yeah.
No one has ever done that to me, so.
I know.
RLD and SR2 are similar districts, but we have fewer allowable uses and more stringent rules. So
Okay,
it's in
that's what I
it's in
wanted to
greater control under our rules than the counties.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do I hear any motion to zone this piece of property?
I'll just make a comment, two comments, I guess. And one is to the neighbors that, I can completely understand, your concerns around, what is essentially I believe just wooded area now, and the thought of having homes built in there and then being lotted out, that would make me concerned as well. It kind of changes the feel of the neighborhood. And so I just want to acknowledge that and say that I hear you. I think that that the planning board, I appreciate their recommendation to go from the URA to the SR2. I think that's a more reasonable zone for this land, and I think that's probably that's how I will be voting.
Any other comments?
I just wanted to say thank you to the planning board as well. I know they spent a lot of time reviewing this whole plan and project, and having done all that research and all those discussions makes our job a little bit easier, and I appreciate it.
Before entertaining a motion or after entertaining a motion and going through discussion, I think you need to at least take a look at the rezoning worksheet, for a couple of reasons. The statutes require now that you find that it's reasonable. It is a spot zone, so it's got to reach a little bit higher level of reasonableness. And the information you have before you, of course, is it's the steeper slope and the environmental impact, a lesser impact by larger lots. But I think that the council needs to look at that rezoning worksheet. If we don't take a look at those and make those at least discussion before the vote, you have a challengeable ordinance.
So should we go through them one
So,
by one?
Mr. Sneed, should we, is it,
You can have the discussion before or after a motion, either one, as long as you have the discussion in the record.
okay.
Have we got a motion on that?
No.
No.
No, there is no motion yet. Well, I'd suggest we review the rezoning worksheet before we have a motion. How's that?
Okay.
Um,
Would you please lead us on that?
That's the problem with opening your mouth. So it looks like to me is that there are several factors there. the overall size of the tract of land proposed for rezoning is or is not reasonable compared to the size of the zoning district in which the property is located. Well, the interesting thing there, it's not located in any zoning district right now. Right?
But
just
you
said
make-
it was no man's land.
That's, this, it is surrounded by URA.
Okay,
which
surrounded
makes
by
it spot on.
URA, okay.
So you've got to verbalize why you're actually more restrictive zoning on this little pocket of property. And you've had, and the biggest points you've heard are the
Right, so
environmental.
with the steep slope, and the greater, ability, for the rules to come into play on, environmental things, seems to me to be good reasons to do this different zoning rather than UR8.
I would agree.
So it occurs, oh, sorry. It occurs to me, we're talking about, lots that are diagonally cut. I mean, when we talk about rezoning, how does that work with a partial tract?
Part of it's in town already, part of it's being
Mhm.
annexed, and you're rezones it all, even though part of it.
The
may
lots.
have- Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things about maps in North Carolina, they're all flat. But the land is not. And it can vary a lot from one little place to another.
Yeah.
And I think this particular property, we've heard several times already, is a very steep slope. So for me, it makes it appropriate for SR2.
Agreed.
Right. Because it would impact the neighboring properties greater if it was, URA.
Which is item number 3 on the checklist.
That's right. That is correct.
Well done.
So can you talk about, is it consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan?
I think that zoning this SR2 is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, particularly in the mountain residential that is primarily a low-density residential area. And, along with all the environmental qualities that you just mentioned, environmental protection and preservation of those natural spaces. Ron, I did think that it was a split zone. Is it not?
Well, not when we get done.
Okay.
Because, right, I looked at the zoning map, I got a feeling our piece of the triangle, if zoned at all, is URA.
Right.
And part of it is unzoned at the moment.
Right.
But with the description you have in there, it will make all of this area I've described
Gotcha.
in the zoning ordinance, SR2, so it won't be split.
We
The
are
ordinance that we-
rezoning some URA.
You are
That's right.
rezoning some URA,
Zoning no man's land too.
correct.
To reflect them as a cohesive tract.
Even better.
That just leaves number 4, I think. The allowed uses with the proposed zoning district are not similar, or comparable to the permitted uses as currently zoned.
They are very comparable. We are more restrictive, but the ones that are existing are on both sides.
It's still all residential.
All residential.
Yeah.
Everyone feel comfortable with the discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we adopt the revised ordinance and zone this SR2 to reflect the Mr. Sneed, the owner's name, and then the legal description to take in all the property as he's described.
Okay, any more discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, okay, passed. All right, thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Communication from staff.
You want your legislative update, or you'd rather not know? There's actually some good news. Well, I will give you the good news and then I'll give you the grain of salt. The bill, Senate Bill 299, which was to basically impose on towns a huge penalty if you don't file your annual audit on time, is that House bill stalled. And so we're safe on that point. The Senate had a more modest version that is still as brutal. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, the Senate bill didn't move, and the House bill has gone to the Senate. There's a chance you'll still end up with that penalty for being late with your audit. It's not a big deal for Black Mountain. You guys have always been timely, always had an auditor online. There is a bill, a companion bill, to sort of get more auditors online. Very few firms are qualified to audit towns, and that's been a problem. They're trying to help that. There was Senate Bill 254 I mentioned last time, which just exposes more of your public employee records as public records. That is stalled in the Senate committee, so that's not moving so far. The House Bill 140 and Senate Bill 251, the House bill is passed. That's the one that allows the towns that they want to use private crash investigators. I haven't heard a whole lot of towns that are interested in it, but some are. On the affordable housing front, there was one that was supposed to create a credit or give you the ability to get some money for infrastructure. We didn't qualify anyway. We don't have enough zoning districts, but it's never made out of the House. The reason I'm talking about that point, May 4th was a crossover date. If a bill didn't pass in one branch by May 4th and make it over to the other, it's theoretically dead in the water for this term. The workforce housing, that's the one that the league was up in arms about. That's the one that says if I go out there and I start a development of 10 acres or more and I call it workforce housing, the town cannot zone. The state will tell you what the zoning is. Fortunately, that's still stuck in the Senate and did make the crossover date. House Bill 409, the one that would require everybody to allow secondary dwellings on all their residential lots. Not a real concern to us. We do that anyway. There are some restrictions on the use or inability to restrict that second residence, which we don't particularly do anyway, so that's not an issue. The bill in the House to basically speed up approvals of our developments, which will put some burden on staff, the planning board, that passed the House and did go to the Senate, so that could end up being law. The short-term rentals has not made it out of the Senate. The Senate bill, that's the one that literally removed your ability to outlaw short-term rentals. They give you some modest abilities to control it. That didn't make it out of the House.
Did not make it out of the House.
Did not make it out of the House.
That means it's dead for this session.
That's the theory.
Unless they decide to
The
tack
reality.
it on to something else.
Yeah, the reality is there's a couple ways they're gonna get you, and this is a big year to play gotcha. Because those bills could come alive again, get added as an amendment to another bill. Our legislature has even gone to the point of taking the topic about don't beat your horse, take everything about the horse out of that and stick in a housing ordinance statute and run it on through anyway. The big worry this term is we have Medicaid expansion, which has been tied to the adoption of a budget. You folks remember, we went a couple of years without a budget. If we don't adopt a budget, then the Medicaid doesn't expand. What a golden opportunity to tag on stuff that one party doesn't like because the governor cannot be seen to veto a Medicaid expansion bill. So there's some big risk. You'll see some of these come back before it's over. And that's the fun this week.
Thank you.
Josh, you
I have
got
nothing,
anything?
Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any comments from the council that they'd like to make?
I just wanted to note that it's National Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. Mrs. Shivers, way to go. And we have lots of teachers in our community and school staff. And if you know one, please let them know how much you appreciate them.
Take one and pass one.
Anybody else? If not, do I hear a motion to go into closed session?
So,
All in favor?
uh,
Aye.